suppose the seduction is you invest so much time, energy, effort, resources into building a strategy.
The first simple thing is you've got to separate strategy from operation, which is much harder than we think. I mean, I suppose you just pray a lot for being positively lucky.
Yeah.
It's not in your control. Hi, I'm Binedell, and welcome to Fate, Luck and Choice, a series I'm doing with my good friend and colleague, Adrian Saville.
I'm Adrian Saville. Welcome back to our next episode of Fate, Luck and Choice. Please like, please follow, please subscribe. Nick jokes, please send money. Nick, our discussion about strategy, let's start right at the beginning. What is strategy? Because you hear businesses sort of throw out the term, we've got a strategy, but how do we distinguish this from a vision, a goal, a plan? What's the definition of strategy?
Adrian, after years of kind of studying it, thinking about it, trying to help companies do it and do it myself, the first simple thing is you've got to separate strategy from operations, which is much harder than we think. A lot of pressure right at the top is actually about operations, but strategy is really about next. What are we going to do next, and how are we going to get that to happen? The word actually originates amongst the Greeks, and they had two interesting meanings. The one was strategos, which is the general and the leadership team, and their qualities and skills and vision. And the other is the strategia, the content, the ideas. And that's how it came. And it came into business usage after the Napoleonic War by von Clausewitz, who wrote this famous book on war. Don't read it. It's 800 pages, impossible to understand. But he brought that word back into business.
So if that's what strategy is, why does it matter? And in the context of luck and choice, why does strategy matter?
Well, I mean, that's I suppose why we've called this Fate, Luck and Choice. Because for a lot of companies and leaders, they keep doing what they've always done. It's momentum, it's the past in action. Then they face things they can't control, which may be good luck or bad luck. And then there's what's left, which is choice, where you can influence the environment and change the nature of the game. Most CEOs think they have more choice than they do. Most companies are quite highly constrained by their abilities or their industry or the economy they operate or the sector. So I think this Fate, Luck and Choice idea that's part of the series is very apt for strategy. It's a very misused word. It has very many meanings. It's a beautiful concept, which is basically how do we think about what to do next that will sustain us for the longer run.
So, I mean, if I could be a little more pointed with my question and ask the question again, why does it matter?
It matters because companies make choices.
Okay.
And often they make choices they can't reverse.
Right.
So it's this new product or this new part of the market. Yep. And or this new culture that we're trying to build. And when you do it and put a lot of effort and money and time into that, then you can't go back from it. A friend of mine said it to me very challengingly one day. He says, it's only strategic when you're choosing between A and B. And once you've chosen A, you can never do B.
Yeah.
Then it's strategic.
Right. It's almost like this impossible dilemma.
It's and you never know whether you were right.
Because you never get to choose.
You never know
you've chosen B.
Exactly.
So let's get practical. If we know what strategy is then, and that clearly it matters, how do we know if a firm has a strategy?
So in a way, you have to examine their operations and the choices they've made. And one of the big things in the field of strategy is alignment. Is the choices they make act synergistically to give the firm power in the market? The simplest example I can use is McDonald's. McDonald's, over its history, made some very basic choices that are highly synergistic. The nature of the product, the locations they choose, the speed with which they operate, the absolute global consistency. You could have had 80,000 restaurants, each one slightly different. In McDonald's cases, they made choices with the drive-through and the toys and the sugar that are absolutely consistent. That is a strategy. It may not be a good strategy, but that is the sign that the company has a strategy. The next question is, what is a good strategy? And the obvious answer to that is one that is competitive, that is distinctive, and that is sustainable. If you can meet those three qualifications, and think about your company and tick your green boxes on those, then you probably have a strategy.
Just stay with each of those words, or drill down a little into each of those words. Competitive.
Right.
This is a word that's wielded around. We've got a competitor, and in fact, if you've got a strategy, you should put that word competitive in front.
Exactly.
So, what does competitive mean?
Before we go there, let me just say I've spent a lot of time the last few months thinking about words and their meanings. So I believe that
you said we weren't going to be philosophical.
No, but this is very practical.
Yeah.
Because when we write these mission statements or these planning documents, we use words, as you've just said, about competitive. I think humans by nature are instinctively competitive.
Okay.
If you accept that as a truth, they're also cooperative, of course, but they are by nature competitive. Humans have dominated the planet because of this instinct to grow and innovate and control.
Well, I mean, just to interject there, very often some of the finest forms of competition are afforded through collaboration and cooperation.
True, exactly.
Yeah.
And inside the firm, you don't want rivalry and competition,
sure,
but you certainly want that against what we call matched competitors.
Okay.
Where people are going off the same market with a similar product, then it really is competitive. And then the question is distinctiveness, which is, okay, but in your proposition about how you're going to compete, what is distinctive?
Okay.
And you don't want to leave the market to your rivals open by them having a distinctive ability to meet a need and that you can't. So at the end of the day, it's what does the market want you to do that you're really good at doing?
Because that point of distinction is what ensures that you're not involved in a race to the bottom.
Well, yes. I mean, if you look at nature, the species of trees or animals, there's so much what they call requisite variety. That species evolve over time and adapt, and variation, selection, retention. That's a word in a phrase in the strategy field that comes out of biology. So all companies make bets and try things and do things. Variation, selection, the market selects the ones they prefer, and retention is the ability to keep that particular relationship and deliver that particular thing to a market.
The fax is long gone from almost all offices. Long live the fax.
Now in your nearest museum.
But there is a Harvard business case written by Michael Porter, which I love using in these conversations with executives and master students, and it's about the Japanese fax industry, which came to dominate the world. Not a made-up number. At one point, Japan had 99% of world market share, and the 39th Japanese firm decides that it's a good idea to enter the industry.
That cauldron.
Yeah. So it's exactly to your point that whilst competing, they're actually inadvertently collaborating because they're forcing each other to.
It's the old VHS, the VCR. So the next area that's so important is that strategy is not a stock, it's a flow. And what we mean by that, and this is tough for companies because they live in today's budget, this month, next quarter, half-year results, is you've got to think of strategy, but like chess, as a series of moves you make over time that delivers what we were describing. And it's not a stock, it's not a balance sheet, it's a flow. And so if you think about sport as a good example, how markets evolve as an example, AI as it's flowing into every crevice that we have in our lives, these are flows. And understanding flows are quite hard when you're locked into an operation delivering today.
The temptation, I suppose the seduction is you invest so much time, energy, effort, resources into building a strategy, and then almost invariably the strategy has a 5-year lens, and we'll visit again.
That's an error.
Yeah.
You should never think like that about your life or about the company. What you should always do is be strategic, to live and think like strategically, which is, so what signals are there? So this is how we position, this is what we're doing, as you said. But what signals are there about how this might be shifting, and what adaptations should we be making before our competitors?
But then that's got all of these nuanced things in it. Surely all of those constant adjustment, refinements, iterations are what we'd call tactics.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got to think about this hierarchically. Actually, there are 4 levels. Grand strategy, the fundamental purpose of the business. McDonald's, it's global fast food. Strategy, how do we compete against other burger chains or pizza joints? Tactics, do we increase the Big Mac by 5%? And then operations, which is so huge. I love operations. I love engineers because they're always about the operational systems. And a strategist can't neglect those. On the chessboard, you better know what the knight can do and know it well. So I love operations. And many people argue, actually, this philosophical idea of strategy doesn't help much. The starting point is, why is the customer buying the product today? What is it in our product or service that's adding value to them? And let's keep doing that. And in my view, over these years, you've got to look at both all the time. You've got to pay attention to what's in front of you today, but you've also got to be thinking what's over the horizon.
So let's change the word strategy to choice, where you're saying it's this option between A and B.
Sure.
We pursue B. That means A is forever forsaken.
Yep.
Now enter luck, because good luck can make even a bad strategy look good.
Sure.
So to what extent does luck determine the outcome of strategic choices?
Well, massively. I mean, let's think of prices of commodities that vary very significantly and what effect they have on downstream industries. And they're not in your company's control. So you buy oil or you buy steel. It's not in your control, but its cost price is fundamental to your car or the energy you need. So these are things outside of your control. You can have good or bad luck.
If I'm a manager, how do I know I'm lucky or strategic?
Well, I mean, I suppose you just pray a lot for being positively lucky.
Yeah.
It's not in your control.
Yeah.
But there is a thing that's really important, is reaction time.
Okay.
So your example of the Japanese fax, they went down the hole of the rabbit and they all committed joint suicide. And they shouldn't have all gone down the hole. Someone should have said, let's think of another product category. I love the way the Japanese camera companies develop micro cameras for thumbprint access control. You've got to look for, you either develop new products, as we all know in ANSOF, or new markets. And a big winner has a new product in a new market. That's global, that's fantastic territory. Most of us are stuck in the same product and market and trying to innovate. Some then develop new markets for the same product, and others develop new products for the same market. So those are your four, this has been around 50 years. Those are your four kind of big choices.
Let me close with two questions. The first is, if you were to offer a litmus test to an executive, how would they be able to assess whether their strategy is a good one? What's the litmus test?
It's a fabulous question, that. I've made a very simple question for people to consider, and I've used it for many years, I think, to reasonable effect. What can this business do that the market wants or will want it to do that its rivals can't do? So it has three dimensions. The doing part, not the thinking and imagining, the doing, what can it deliver, that the market wants, the insights to know why your product is accepted or rejected, insight. And then will do is foresight, what's coming next, and then that no one else can do. And if you can answer that clearly and be sure that you've answered it correctly with not wishes but data and evidence and argument, then you have a strategy.
Let's take this conversation into the boardroom to close out our episode. You start off by making the observation that strategy perhaps is misunderstood or poorly defined. If we could get into the boardroom and change one misperception or misbelief, misunderstanding about strategy, what would your sort of utterance in the boardroom be?
I suppose that in the boards I've sat in, the driving force of a board, and you know this as well as I do, it's the finance committee drives the board discussion. The numbers drive the thing. Mm-hmm. And I've learned over the years that it's not the numbers, it's the imagination. But it's imagination in the daylight. So it's the urge for boards to understand why this product and service is delivering value, or if it's not, why it's not, all the way from the point of delivery and use, all the way back up the chain to the raw material. And it's to talk about markets more. In most boards I am I've been involved in my life, we talk mainly about finance and accounting and so on. Strategy is an extremely well studied and talked about subject. It's not got a crisp answer, the same as accounting no longer does, which I'm happy to say after all these years. But it's a concept, and it's a concept out of nature, out of life, that can work in your own personal life, in your corporate life, and countries can have a strategy. Singapore had a strategy. China today seems to have a grand strategy. So it is a fundamental concept of life, I think.
It's a great way to bring our conversation to an end. Fate, luck, and choice. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.